Good afternoon, everyone. The time is 4:42 p.m. and I've got my squishy ball. Feel free to say hello so I know that you're there. It has been a really long time since I've jumped on and done a live. I've missed being live, but also I've got a bit of anxiety around it at the moment. Hi Jody. Hi Roxanne. Hi Sally. Oh, hi Victoria. I feel so much better already. Hi Claire. Hi Mel. Hi Rachel. Hi Laura. I have been feeling like being on social media has been getting really hard. Really hard. Because I mean, I think we all know why. There's a lot of yuck out there. Hi Wendy. Hi Fleur. And Amanda, Elizabeth, Rebecca. You did catch me live. You certainly did. I'm just talking about how I felt a lot of resistance lately to engage on social media, to show up and to do lives. Hi Jane. I've been experiencing a lot of resistance and anxiety and sometimes it feels like, you know, every time. Oh, hi Courtney. This is an amazing surprise. Makes me feel really excited. Hi Shaz. Hi Rebecca and Ali and Krista. I think that's a great plan, to do nothing. A fantastic plan. So I've been feeling anxious about going live and being on social media because there's a bit of trolling out there and lots of fighting and, you know, so much trauma out there in the big bad world, especially in the autistic community, in families, and, you know, everybody just wants to be heard and validated and to share their stories. And sometimes that's really hard to do when there are opposing beliefs and experiences and understandings, and it gets really nasty. And to be honest, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that. Hi Suzanne. I just want to show up, share my experience and support people. That's all I really care about. But something I wanted to talk about today is something we touched on in the Intune Families live group session this morning at 6:30. Eliza! I want to see your pajamas, but I can't. I can't see anybody. You can all see me, but I can't see you. Oh, Amanda, that's really kind. Thank you. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Susan. So what we touched on this morning in the ITF session was when things get so hard and we've tried something and we've tried another thing and we've tried something else and nothing's working, it's okay to do nothing. Amy, oh my goodness, we caught each other live. Hi, Penny. How am I only wearing one top? You're rugged up in your skivvy, hoodie and polar fleece because that's too many layers for me. I can only handle 2 layers. I've got a singlet and a top, anything else and I'm like, ugh. Good luck with your assessment, Emily. That sounds amazing. Anyway, I keep diverging off track. So specifically, I mean, this can cover a whole range of areas, but when our children may be aggressive or lashing out physically, I think that it's okay to take a step back and to just not have the answers. You know, I think we spend a lot of time as human beings feeling like we have to have solutions for everything, we have to have answers, and in the autistic community and the autism community, we spend a lot of time chasing those answers because we care so deeply for our children and our loved ones, and we want better lives for ourselves. So we tend to worry about the future and worry about what's going to become of our children, and so we search for answers. And I think something that's really important is where we're searching for answers. What are we reading? What information? Where are we sourcing our information from about autism? And for many of us, we begin when our children are identified or diagnosed autistic. That initiation is from non-autistic professionals telling us that we need all of these therapies and all of these approaches, and sometimes our children may not need any of them. So we're already overwhelmed from the very beginning with all the things that we could be doing or should be doing. And the reality is, if we took every single approach, every single therapy, every single piece of information and wanted to implement it in our family lives, one lifetime wouldn't be enough time for that. So we've got to give that up. We've got to get real and know that that's not even possible. So sometimes it's not only okay to not have solutions and answers, it's really important. It's a really powerful place to be, because it means that we get to surrender, we get to allow things to exist, and we get to explore rather than feeling pressured to come up with solutions. Amanda, I totally agree. When children become physical, it is hard. They are in extreme distress. Extreme distress. I hear a lot of families, saying, oh, thank you, Rachel, that gave me a terrible fright. But thank you so much, that's really kind. I hear a lot of families saying, well, we can't just do nothing. Or a lot of families, there will be one parent saying, let's do it this way, and the other parent saying, no, we can't do this, It's too laid back, and specifically what we're talking about is a low demand or no demand approach. Here's the thing. We can try all the things in the world, but if our child is still distressed, then those things aren't working. If they're stressing us out, then those things aren't working. When we are raising neurodivergent children, when we are neurodivergent families, our practice has to be family-centred. Parenting has to be an act of self-care. We have to be important too, not just our children. That's okay, Rachel, no problem. Thanks, Amy. Thank you. Now, when we're looking at PDA specifically, sometimes our children will have this experience that they don't have a language for. And the hardest thing about PDA is that we're still learning about it. So many professionals don't understand what it is. And I think the worst thing that we can do is assume that PDA is autism with extreme anxiety or autism with demand avoidance. PDA is a complete neurobiology and it's very complex. So when we look at a child who has a PDA profile and believe that that's just an autistic person with extreme anxiety, I think that can sometimes be really problematic. Being a PDA myself, I can tell you that there are internal processes that go on that are really difficult to describe or explain or make sense of ourselves. So being able to express these things to our parents or our educators is really, really hard. Now, when you're a child and you're already distressed and you're blowing up, you're exploding, you're lashing out, and I was very much like that, and then you have a parent or an educator reprimanding you for that and saying there's going to be an imposed consequence, or there's going to be a punishment for that, or yelling. And you know what? We're human beings. I still yell at my children every now and then. Who doesn't? Well, probably lots of people don't. I'm not one of those people. I'm a human being, so, you know, I lose it. But when the child is distressed and we're trying to implement all those approaches and they're not working, they're distressing the child even more. So we can continue doing that thing. We can continue getting upset about the child lashing out, and we can continue thinking that we have to do something. But if we continue to do that something and the child continues to be distressed, there's nothing left. So if what we're doing isn't working, then it doesn't make any sense to do it anymore. And it takes practice to do nothing. But when I say do nothing, what I mean is to just step back. Just step back and let things be. Now, if there are siblings who are being hurt or harmed, then we shift our focus away from the child who is distressed and doing the lashing out, and we take our focus and we make sure our other children are safe, however that looks. Somebody asked me the other night on a live Q&A about what do I do when my child's lashing out and hurting me and using me to get their frustration out. And I feel like we get so airy-fairy in this space, and we say things that just sometimes aren't realistic for everybody. I mean, I'm in a position of privilege. I can take my child out of school. I can implement particular approaches, but not everybody can for different reasons. So when this person asks me, what do we do? You know, sometimes we'll say things like, hi, I'm Megan. We'll say things like, we have to replace the person that's the child that the child's lashing out at with a punching bag. But the reality is, sometimes that's not going to work. It's not going to work. It doesn't mean that our children are bad kids. It means they're highly distressed, they're really frustrated, they're really overwhelmed, and especially when they're PDA, they're looking for something to get their power back. Now, if you can imagine the, what's the word I'm looking for? The shock factor at lashing out at somebody and the power that it brings back. Now, not in a controlling, demanding, powerful way, as in, I need to be bigger than everyone else. For the PDA, at the foundation of everything we feel is balance, a need for balance. So when we are feeling off balance, we're down here. And our neurobiological response is to do something sometimes that is so shocking and so out there that it will catapult us back up to here so we feel in balance again. And that's not choice. It's not a choice. Even when we see a child, you know, throwing punches or kicking or swearing and spitting, that's not choice. That's distress. That's overwhelm. That is panic. That's a panic attack. So if we're going to stand over that child who's in a panic attack and tell them that if they don't stop it right now, A, B and C will happen, there is additional pressure on them. I forget too, Amy. I always forget too, because we're humans. I think people think that, you know, those of us who are in advocacy and we talk about why we do the things we do and why our children do the things they do and what they need, that doesn't mean that we're perfect parents. It doesn't mean that I get it right all the time. It doesn't mean that I never say to my child, can you pick up your toys, please? Of course I do. I mean, I'm 42 years old. This is how I've been talking for years and years and years. There is deep social and cultural conditioning within us. So this is why it's so important to have family-centered practice, to extend to ourselves the same compassion, forgiveness, understanding that we extend to our children. Because the result of not extending those things to ourselves is the energy we give off of self-loathing, self-rejection, feelings of failure, feelings of guilt, feelings of never being enough for our children. That culminates a particular energy, and we send it out into the abyss, and our children pick up on it straight away and mirror back what we're giving off. Now, this isn't about shame or blame in parents. It's about remembering that not only do we have the right to essential care for ourselves, we have a responsibility. So this is why I say, if we don't have the answers, if we don't have solutions for particular situations, that is so okay. Because we are better off to sit back and look at the situation and explore what is right for our family than to run off somewhere else and say, hey, this happened in my family, what do you think I should do about it? And that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we're taught to do. When we're raising autistic children, we are encouraged to seek out professional advice from people who are detached, disconnected from our families, and we further disempower ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. That's really important. There's nothing wrong with seeking professional input. But if it doesn't feel right, if the relationship with the professional is not respectful, if we're not being heard and validated and understood, if we're being told that our children's challenges are our fault, then it's okay to let those professionals go. We are not, parents don't cause disability. We don't. And we are navigating this with our children as a family unit. Father of my son said, don't worry, he's just testing your boundaries. But I think it's rather this. Kids never test our boundaries. They always just desperately try to protect theirs. You should turn that into a meme. That's a great thing to say. It's so true. And see, those are those cliche sayings that have been handed down generation after generation about our children. And when we really think about it, we treat our children like they're little monsters that want to take over the world. The way we talk about them, the fear we have that they'll take over. Wow, some of the comments I read in the comment sections of parenting pages, the way we consider children is so problematic. I never thought I was a bad parent. I was an advocate for my child and I gave up my life for her. It was worth it. I divorced, but now I have a life, and my daughter's child is autistic, So we start the circle of life once more. Yeah, it runs through our bloodlines. Being autistic to me is just as inherent as my last name or where my family descend from. Hi Cassandra, I feel like I haven't seen you in so long. We also shouldn't wait for professionals to begin trying to help support our kids' strengths and needs. We instinctively know what they need, so we just have to trust ourselves. Yeah. Hey Katie. Thank you. I agree, Cassandra. I think sometimes we've just been so disempowered and so disconnected. Victoria says sometimes no choice with having professionals in life. It's hard when you know their way is wrong for the family. Yeah, that's what I was saying before about privilege. Not all of us have the option to say we don't want to have therapists in our life, or we're going to take our children out of school, or we can tell our children to openly celebrate being autistic. That's not safe for everybody. Thanks for raising that point. Yeah, there are some really wonderful professionals. I'm excited about the amount of autistic professionals becoming more and more. I mean, they always existed. They always existed. Just going through the comments because I know I missed so many. Amy says, hard to care for myself when my son is out of school because I don't get a break. I understand that, Amy. I really understand that. People ask me why. Why do you get up at 4:30 a.m., 5:30 a.m.? Well, because that's the only time I have to myself. My husband works, so if I want to have a shower, or if I want to have a coffee, or, you know, do something for myself, or just have some quiet, that's what time I get up. You too, Cassandra. Have you been around? Have I just been missing you? Hi, Sarah. I think there's a huge gap in services for autistic families who've been forced into homeschooling. Yeah, this is so important. I think it's important to acknowledge privilege, and I do. I also think it's important to acknowledge that home educating isn't always about privilege or luxury. It's about not having a choice. It's about being chased up by services because you can't get your children to go to school. It's about going through all of that trauma because you are literally powerless to be able to comply with those systemic approaches. I can't really even think of any autistic-led groups even who cover this demographic. And while we would love to be able to do it ourselves, but honestly, we're pretty much drained. Yeah. Thanks, Stacey. Yeah, it is really hard. It's really hard. I think this is why, going back to what I was saying before about, you know, sometimes I think we've got to stop being really airy-fairy around some of the suggestions we're giving families as well, because sometimes I hear the repetition of the advice that non-autistic professionals are giving, like timers on desks, dot points on boards, a couple of sensory breaks per day. We're people. Autistic people are people. We have individual needs. We don't just have a generic framework because the word autism is attached to us. And, you know, there have been situations for me as a parent where when children are lashing out, I have had to remove myself from the room. I've had to remove myself from the room and close the door behind me, and that can be so traumatic for families. Sometimes we have to do things because it's the only option we have, and it's not about abandoning our children in their distress. It's about remembering that in order to keep our children safe, which is what we want, we have to remove ourselves sometimes to be able to keep ourselves calm. Because the minute we're escalated, then our children are escalated. So it's not simple. It's bloody hard. I don't understand families where there is more than one autistic person in it. I can definitely remember the shocked faces, vacant looks on some professionals' faces when they really realised they had no clue. Yeah. I think a lot of families, a lot of autistic families with positive autistic identity, more often than not stop engaging with services because there's no trust, there's no connection, there's no understanding. And I think this is because we're still so fixated on the medical model of disorder rather than autistic identity and culture. And people think that when we talk about identity and culture, we're saying that we don't struggle, that it's all roses. And it's not. It's not. It's a disability, for sure. Quite honestly, I have found the autistic community to be just as limiting in many of their approaches as NTs. Well, that's probably because we're human. Yeah, I don't doubt that. We're all human, aren't we? It's really interesting. I mean, that's what I was saying, Penelope, about there's no point in advocating, there's no point in holding space for people if we're just going to continue perpetuating myths around what helps autistic people, like the timer on the desk, use a timer, use a reward chart. I mean, that's so insulting. Carrie, we're discussing everything. I came in here with a topic and, you know, just end up talking about everything. I'm just monologuing and people are just commenting. Penny, did you ask me if I have a new poster in the background? I do not have a new poster in the background. No, but I have a Rainbow Bright doll. Who remembers Rainbow Bright from 1982? And Twinkle. That was like my dream toy as a child, and I lost it, and I just bought a new one as a 42-year-old woman. Lovely to see you, Camille. Did you, Carrie? I know, Natalie, I am, aren't I? I thought, you know what? I'm going to get in touch with the little person within. And so I made a bit of a Pinterest board. Care Bears, yes! Care Bears! Strawberry shortcake doll, and you could smell its face or its head And it smelled like strawberries. Yes, I agree, Penelope, in many cases. Your Kinder Egg collection. What's Kinder Egg? Pound puppies! Oh, this is blowing my mind. Natalie, yes, pound puppies. And what about the popples? Remember popples? They were those teddy bear things and you could turn them inside out. And Sweet Secrets. 80s toys. Do you know what? When I ordered this a few weeks ago, I thought there's no way I'm going to get one because they're vintage now and they sell for $1,000. But I found that one for $47. It was a bit of a treat. And I could still remember in my mind, oh, Kinder Surprises. Eliza, you must be really young. Are you? They haven't been around that long, have they? I think they're quite, like, 15 years old or something. Sorry, everyone's having really serious conversations here about professionals and autism, and I'm talking about toys from the 80s. Oh my god, she did, Penelope. That's right, you could squeeze her tummy. Yes. Well, Rainbow Bright, when I ordered that doll, I could remember in my mind, through my sensory systems, exactly how every inch of the doll felt. The texture on the dress, the woolen hair, all of it. Etched into my brain. Fraggle Rock and the Muppets. Glowworms were the best. Yes, Anne-Marie, I think so too. Oh, it's funny. Do you know what else I did? About a year ago, I went to a toy store to get some Christmas presents for my children, and I saw Cabbage Patch dolls and I nearly had a heart attack and fell over because I always wanted one. Always wanted one. But we couldn't afford things like that. I grew up in a single parent family and we didn't have a lot of money. So I bought one. I bought one last year. A Rugrats Chucky doll. Oh, did you, Jessica? The bald one. How funny. Oh, that's so sweet. Isn't it amazing how we get attached to things from our past? Sometimes we don't always appreciate them at the time. I did. I really longed for my Rainbow Bright doll after I lost it. Same, Eliza. Oh, Shaz, how dare they? You know what, Leanne? My 7-year-old couldn't give an iota about all those sorts of things. Never been interested in dolls or anything like that. Just loves tractors, cars, remote control cars, drawing, all that stuff. Oh, Sally, that's amazing. You still have it. Oh, Lizzie, that's lovely. Do you know what? Mona says, just think how our own children will remember their childhoods, and some of it will be being told off continually and punished for being different. You know, maybe not so much. You know, we make sure we have a lot of humour in our family. We do a lot of diverting. We get very silly. And those are the things our children remember. We create memories in the moment. I do a lot of stuff I don't want to do. Because I know those are the things my kids will remember forever. I've actually bought toys in charity shops that my mum refused to buy me first time round. Yeah, me too, Eliza. I haven't been able to find them in charity shops though. Yeah, I understand that with school. When I was 7, my grandma gave me a stuffed rabbit toy for Christmas. Grandma, I'm too old for stuffed toys, I told her. That'd be the biggest lie I told her, because I lost Flopsy while on the Great Victorian Bike Ride just before I turned 22, because I took her with me. Now I have my sister's Becky bear to sleep with, and I have a different bear to take with me on holiday, so Becky never leaves my house, so I won't lose her. Oh, Penny. That's sweet. Polly Pockets, yes. My oldest daughter I used to buy those for. Yeah, I remember cereal toys. I remember being 4 years old and getting a little badge out of a box of cereal. You have such a non-imposing, meditative tone of voice. I couldn't hear the words while in the shower, but you just made my shower task less painful by your tone. Fee, that's really kind. It's a bit monotone, probably. Okay, everyone. Well, I came on to talk about something meaningful, and I ended up talking about toys from the 80s. But that's pretty meaningful. That was cool. That was cool. It's been so nice to reconnect with everybody. I really just wanted to jump on because I've been experiencing a lot of resistance around social media and showing up. And so I knew if I jumped on and reconnected with everybody, I would remember how amazing this space is. Victoria, the Smurfs. Do you know, I never liked the Smurfs. I never liked Fraggle Rock. And I think it's because I would get so anxious and stressed out at the thought of there being situations that they could easily solve or get around, but it took them so long to figure it out. I'd be so annoyed with that. Oh, so are you, Karen. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. I best go. Lots of love to you all. Ah, it's really cool, isn't it, Jodie? Thanks, Rebecca. Okay. Bye, everyone.